A tale as old as time itself, vengeance has always been at the forefront of the human soul. Responsible for 1 out of every 5 murders, revenge is conceived to this day as a form of justice. In real-life stories, revenge is portrayed almost always negatively. But in film plots, revenge can be justified, desired, and usually incredibly cool.
I want your liver.
To fathom how something so disavowed in parental and societal teachings can be so valued and appreciated in film portrayal can have a lot to do with our own inner fantasies. But it's actually a lot more than that. There's biology and psychology as to why we crave the idea of revenge, even when we know its eventual downfall is inevitable. This is The Revengers.
Always something. What?
The idea may seem simple. Someone hurts you and the answer is equivalent or worse pain on the offender. Retribution, tit for tat, karma, all describe a universal human feeling. Revenge does not bring back the past, but it enables us to feel psychological balance, and in its most extreme form, is legally confined only to the state. But rather than the emotional force we all can relate to, revenge is a physical component, part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens. The same area responsible for stimulus during drug use, this area has delivered a rush of neuronal activity when the mind focuses on retaliation. Studies have shown that this part of the brain lights up when the mind is set on addiction, pleasure, and yes, revenge, proving that revenge is perceived as a reward, like a satisfying dessert or smoke after a big meal. Our minds desire to treat revenge as ice cream, but just as we may feel regretful after caloric dessert, so too may we feel after revenge.
Verdict.
At its core, it delivers no closure at all. In fact, it usually delivers the opposite. Research has shown that the catharsis attributed to the act of revenge is that venting your anger and frustrations can provide a sort of therapeutic benefit. A social experiment was conducted by Kevin Carlsmith, in which participants were given money to invest together and claim dividends, or keep for themselves. They found out a member had claimed dividends without putting money into the pot. The group was separated into those who could then punish the offender and those who could not, with the ultimate conclusion that those seeking revenge had their moods significantly lowered and their ability to move on hindered than the others. The satisfaction we find from an act of revenge did nothing but lower their chances for satisfaction. In film, justice through revenge for murder is seen in many forms. Most often the result is death for the offender. The result is not usually linear, but complicated.
Unfortunately, that's the story of revenge. Revenge is messy. It never works out the way you want it to.
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan!
But occasionally, a film comes along in which the reality of revenge is captured so perfectly. In the South Korean masterpiece Oldboy, a mysterious imprisonment of a man for 15 years leads to his hunt for the mastermind behind this, and the curious reasons why his life was put in a prison at such a young age. Throughout the brutally violent film, you are rooting for this brooding and oftentimes horrible character, knowing his struggles in social interaction is due to his lack of human interaction for over a decade. We expect a cathartic event to happen in our own minds as we rely on the conventional beliefs of revenge and the satisfaction it brings. But the director plays with our own expectations. The immorality of the main character is forgiven because our minds are so obsessed with revenge. We claim moral superiority by advocating for revenge, meanwhile disregarding what we see before our own eyes. By the time the third act twist comes along, the protagonist does not get his satisfaction. We realize the reason for his imprisonment and can actually sympathize with both sides. Our minds were prepared for a feeling of comfort in revenge, only to find ourselves reeling with a misunderstanding of what we craved in the first place and why we craved it. Watch it if you haven't already. The lure for revenge is indeed one that plays out in your mind, even when we know it can never exist in reality. Films allow us a sense of that fantasy fulfillment with no danger of breaking your own moral code, yet the question is still begged, why do we find some fondness with something that is not in touch with our own moral senses? Psychologists have pointed to multiple reasons. Revenge fantasies on film can elicit healing from our own inner demons without having to partake in the act ourselves. The fear of revenge can also help set up our own moral code in giving us guidelines for behavior, either personally or for society and culture as a whole, much the same way religion does. Most importantly, though, is the concept of third-party punishment. Whereas society has set up societal norms, bad behavior is punished through a type of revenge by a third party, like law enforcement. Thus, when we see this on film, it reinforces our desire to do right in civilized society, no matter our darkest fantasies. Even so, the power we feel from an act of revenge, however, pales in comparison to the one we feel when we act in the opposite way and embrace the power of forgiveness. Whether in real life or in films, the emotional connection we perceive with forgiving one another will always suppress our desire for revenge and continue to lead society to heights that revenge can never reach, the knowledge of which can allow us to treat revenge on film as just that, a piece of entertainment, a dark secret we can enjoy on our own minds, a reinforcement of our own moral code.
Fingerprints all over me, 'cause if they find me dead, they should know.